We're going to see if we can find the surface area of this rectangular prism without using a grid. So we're going to start by drawing the net. Remember, the net is the two-dimensional pattern that we get basically when we unfold the 3D figure. Okay, so let's see what we have here. Well, I can tell it's a rectangular prism because all of the faces are rectangles. I notice that I have a length of 10 here. I have a dimension of 3 in that depth area right there. And then the height is 4. And so I have 3 different measurements that I need to keep track of. So I think what I want to do is go ahead and start with the bottom. So this rectangle right here, we can see it because of the way this rectangle is designed. The length of the bottom rectangle is 10. And this depth here of the rectangular prism represents the width of this bottom face is 3. So we have a 10 by 3 rectangle. So I'm going to go ahead and drag down the rectangle. This is going to be a 10 by 3. So we have 10 inches by 3 inches, and that is the bottom. And I am going to go ahead and add another little text box in here to label that. All right, so we have the bottom, and along the front edge of the bottom, we have another face that we can look at here, and that's the front. It's also a rectangle, but notice the front. The dimensions of the front face are 10 by 4. So it's not going to be the same as the bottom. So we're going to have to create a new rectangle this time. And it's going to be the same length of 10, but it's a little bit wider, isn't it? All right, so let's go ahead and we'll get that labeled. That's 4 inches for the width. And then 10 inches for the length here in this case. All righty, and let's go ahead and label that. That was the front. All right, let's see what else we see now. So there's the bottom, there's the front, and then we have, I can also see the sides pretty clearly. So looking at the bottom face again, on the right side, there's this edge that's shared by both the bottom face and the right side, and it's 3 inches. And the height, just like the height of a tissue box, all the same. So that's going to be a height of 4, so 3 by 4. So we're going to create another rectangular face. Three inches by 4 inches. And we're going to label this one with just a letter R because we're on the right side, but we're running out of room here. So there's going to be our right side. On the opposite side of the rectangular prism is another face the same size. It's on the left side. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this. And I'm going to move that over here. And this time I'm going to insert a text box, but I'm going to label this side with an L because that's representing our left side. So we've got the bottom, 10 by 3. We've got the front, 10 by 4. We've got the right side, 3 by 4. We've got the left side, 3 by 4. Now let's take a look at the back. Okay, so here's the bottom. Here's the edge that the bottom face and the back face share. The back is congruent to which face? Well, the back is congruent to the front. So I'm going to go ahead and copy the front and put that right here. And this is going to represent the back. And then I'm going to go ahead and label that. All right, so we've got the front, the back, the left, the right, the bottom, and what are we missing? The top, right? And if we have the measurements for the bottom, what do we know about the measurements or the dimensions for the top? They're the same. The two faces will be congruent. All right, I'm going to go ahead and copy the bottom. And I'll move it up here into place. And we will label that as the top. All right, so now we have all 6 faces of our rectangular prism, and we're ready to get to work. So I think I'm going to use some more text boxes this time. All right, so let's see, what do we know? The top and the bottom. I want to start with those opposite sides. So the top has dimensions of 3 inches times 10 inches. It's a 3 by 10. And if we multiply 3 by 10, we get 30. So 3 inches times 10 inches gives us 30 square inches, right? Now, what do we know about the bottom? If the top is a 3 by 10 rectangle, and we're dealing with a rectangular prism, the bottom is going to be congruent to that. So we can just copy, paste that, can't we? All right, so the top and the bottom, we've got that. What's next? The back. And what's congruent to the back of the rectangular prism? Yeah, the front. So I want to go ahead and add back in here. And what are the measurements for the back? Well, the back face has dimensions of 10 by 4. So we'll go ahead and write that in. 10 inches times 4 inches. And that equals 40 square inches. And what face is congruent to the back? Yeah, the front is congruent. So go ahead and add that. And then because they're congruent, I can copy this right here. All right, so we have the top, the bottom, the back, the front. What do we have remaining? The sides, the left and the right side. So I'm going to go ahead and start with my right side. What are the dimensions for the right face? 3 by 4. So 3 inches by 4 inches equals 12 square inches. What about the left side? Well, it's congruent to the right side. So let's go ahead and write that down. If it's congruent, then we have the exact same dimensions. All righty, now I want to go ahead and I'm going to justify this. I'm going to justify these all to the right so that our numbers line up nicely here. So we have 30, 30, 40, 40, 12, and 12. What do we need to do to find the total surface area? If you said add them up, you are correct. Okay, so to find the total surface area, we are going to add 30 plus 30, which is 60. And 60 plus 40 is 100. I like getting to numbers like that. If I can make 10 or 100, I like to do that. So 30 and 30 is 60, 60 and 40 is 100, so we're here now. Okay, and then 100 plus 40 is 140. 140 plus 10 is 150. 150 plus 10 is 160, plus 2 plus 2, 164. So we have 164 square inches. All right, and that is our total surface area. I'm going to go ahead and put that in bold here. All right, so let's just recap. When we're finding surface area of a rectangular prism that's not in a grid, we're going to look carefully at the image of the 3D figure that's given. We're going to create our net. In this case, with a rectangular prism, we have all rectangles, but the rectangles are not always the same size, so we had to look carefully. We found that the bottom rectangle was congruent to the top rectangle. The bottom was 10 by 3, and in this case, the top was 10 by 3. We also talked about how the front face was congruent to the back face. The front face was 10 by 4, and the back face was 10 by 4. And then finally, we talked about how the left face and the right face were congruent. The right face was a 3 by 4, and the left face was a 3 by 4. Then we found the area of each face, and we can notice here that the area for top and bottom were equal, the area for the back and front are equal, and the area for the left and right face are equal. And then finally, we added all of those together to get our total surface area of 164 square inches.